Hey up everybody, and welcome back to the Audi Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be taking a look at the Tour de Suisse. Obviously the Criterium de Dauphiné is going on, where there's all sorts of action going on there. But before we jump into the Tour de Suisse profiles, obviously if you want to go pick up your wall chart, I'll leave a link in the description down below. 10% of the profits go straight to Velogames to help support George in this fantastic game that we all love to play, and it's also a great way of supporting this channel and just keeping a track of the teams that you've made throughout the year for the Stage Race Championship, or if you want to go buy one for the Warm-Up Championship, if you didn't get one back then you can go and pick one up. So check out the link in the description if you want to go pick one up. In terms of the Tour de Suisse, we've got 8 stages, a lot of mountainous terrain. I mean, stage 1, only 130 odd Ks long, but we've got the Michael Scuders in here, 3 Ks at 9%, so I expect this will be some sort of GC day. It's not a long climb, but it will create some GC action, and I think that if there are riders, or if there are teams here with multiple riders, you might see some solo, 1-2s going on. So you might well see a solo victor win this, or either a reduced sprint of some sorts. Stage 2, I think this will be a reduced sprint as well, just because this final climb, 5Ks at like 3%, it's not overly steep, so I think this will likely be a sprint amongst kind of punchers. I don't think the sprinters will be in this field will be good enough to make it. Stage 3, again, I see this being kind of like a GC or a puncher stage. It's a little bit harder than stage 2, but the final climb being 3.4Ks at 5.3%, again, it's not that steep, and it'll be kind of similar, I think, to, do you remember the Dauphiné stage last year in 2024, which Derek G won ahead of, I think it was like Gregoire and Nerurka? I see it being a bit like that, like kind of like a GC punch-up sprint, if you get what I mean. Stage 4, we've got kind of the highest point of the race here, going over the Splurgen Pass, 8.8Ks at 7.3%. In theory, it should be the biggest GC kind of action day because of the big climb, but it depends if teams want to control this. I mean, this first half of the climb isn't actually that hard, average gradient-wise, so it's a lot of energy to try and really make the most of this 9Ks at 7.3%. And then you've got a big descent and a flatter bit to the end, so I think this will be a GC day, but I could also see it going to a breakaway. Stage 5, I think this will be a GC day because, yes, although these kind of climbs here aren't overly hard, I would say, these last 2 ascents are difficult. I mean, averaging almost 10% for 4.5Ks, and you get 2 of them in there. I mean, the last one's even a little bit longer. I think this will be quite a big GC action day. Stage 6, I think, will be pretty much the only sprint day. There are a few sprinters on this start list, and I think their teams will be pretty interested to try and at least get 1 win out of a week for their sprinter. Stage 7 is very much like Stage 5, with these kind of double ascents at the end, so another GC day for me. And then Stage 8, we've got ATT, which, yeah, it's just going to be another kind of GC day, which means that a lot of GC action is going to be going on, so you probably want to be focusing in on a lot of those riders, namely Joao Almeida. I mean, Almeida did so well in this race last year. I think he's almost a bit of a must-have pick. He is, in my eyes, the strongest rider in this race, and I think that he could be getting multiple stage wins, especially that TT at the end. That's very suited towards Almeida, and I think he's got a really strong team as well, so Almeida for me is a bit of a must-have pick, even if he is 26 credits. Probably the most expensive we've ever seen Almeida. And you've got O'Connor and Gal, who are the kind of second tier GC favourites. They haven't been that great this year, I would say. Gal actually was just inside the top 10 of this race last year. I think he was a lot cheaper though. 16 credits is quite expensive, but this guy is very good on steep terrain. His positioning is pretty bad, and so is his descending, but his climbing is very exceptional, and it depends whether he might be worth it. I think he is a podium candidate, but I do always fear going with Gal. I think there's a lot of other good talent, a lot of other good choices who are a bit cheaper. O'Connor, I just haven't seen enough from this year. I would rather go with Gal than O'Connor. O'Connor's just been on the fringes of the top 10 for a lot of races, and if he does that in this race, 18 credits will be too expensive for him. So I think I will avoid O'Connor, but that doesn't mean that he won't do well. I mean, this is it's like a warm-up race before the tour, and he usually does quite well in those sorts of races. So O'Connor could be a big differential pick if you're looking for one. Only I like these climbs are quite suited to him. Apart from, I'd say probably that last TT isn't that suited to him, but he's better on the shorter climbs, and that's what these are in abundance. And I think Only is a big contender for a top 10 and getting towards some stage wins, possibly. At least top 5ing a few stages, I would say. Vlasov, kind of similar to O'Connor, haven't seen too much of this year, but if there is going to be a point where he's going to do well, it should be here, where he looks like the leader of the team. But again, we haven't seen too much of him this year. I would say Onley is a safer pick than Vlasov, but Vlasov does have a good reputation on these uphill TTs. I remember him winning one when he won the Tour de Romandie a couple of years ago, or a few years ago. So I think Vlasov is still a decent pick. Bilbao, he looked very strong at the end of the Giro, and sometimes riders do kind of, especially the more experienced riders, can end a Grand Tour very well and then carry that form forwards, and I think Bilbao could do that, but again, it's a little bit risky, I think, going with somebody who's just finished a Grand Tour. Vine isn't actually in the race anymore. The start list was updated a little bit ago, and I was also waiting for the GP Gippingham to finish first, just to get some final ideas. So Jay Vine would have been a good pick, and he was on my team, but he isn't in the race anymore, sadly. The 12 credit riders, we've got Alaphilippe and Hershey, lots of other good punchers. The best ones for me, I think Gregoire, great pick. Paulus obviously won the GP Gippingham today, so I think he's also a really good choice. I like Riccatello. He was 6 credits last year and he was 6th place. And the last we saw of him was in the Tour of the Alps, where he was quite active and looked pretty good. So I think Riccatello is a good choice for this race as well. So I like, Riccatello, Paulus, because Paulus should top 10 this race, I think. He's quite punchy, so on a couple of those kind of sprintier puncher finishes, he should get up there as well. And Gregoire, very similarly to Paulus, I think that he'll be up there in quite a few stages as well. Yeah, you got kind of like Alaphilippe, Dali, Hershey. I mean, these guys might contend, and Matthews isn't actually in the race because he's actually rather sadly had like a heart palpitation or something recently in training. I don't think these guys are really just going for stages, and I think in this race that's not going to be worth it. I think you need a guy who's going to be going for stages and GC, and given the difficulty of a lot of the stages, I think that even the puncher stages will be contested by GC favourites. So somebody like Alaphilippe or Hershey, there's both of them on the team. I think they're just a little bit risky because you don't know who they're going to be riding for. Neither of them were in the front group of a GP Gippingham today. Dali, let's face it, I mean, he might contest that second stage, possibly, and the one sprint finish, but it's kind of like Milan and the Dauphiné. He hasn't ended up being worth it because he just hasn't had the stages to compete in. Teo, you could make an argument for, and Van Wilder. I consider these guys as top 10 candidates who might get you somewhere between 200 to 300 points. The 10 credit riders, Adria, I think, is very similar to kind of an Alaphilippe and Dali. I think he just doesn't have that GC prospect kind of to him. He's just a stage hunter, as is Bettiol and Bittner, really. If you want somebody who's going to be winning that one sprint stage, it'll be either Bittner or Mayus if you're looking for a Gregario or something. If you've supported Velogames and you're on that extra couple of leaderboards, maybe Mayus could be one there. So I'm looking more towards GC guys. So Blackmore is a good choice. Grosschartner, although he might be working for Almeida, he might inadvertently finish top 15. He is quite good at the uphill TTs. Tour Polonia last year, he was 3rd in a TT, or he might have been even 2nd. And he was just 2nd in the Tour of Slovenia. So I think Grosschartner is pretty good. Lapela, very similar to Adler. He is just a kind of puncher going for stages, but he might get a top 5 or like a couple of top 3s, I would say. Harold Martin Lopez, I like him. Good form recently. He won the Tour de Hungary. He didn't win. He was top 3 in the Tour de Turquia. He's had a good run of results this year, and I think that he should be, again, inside the top 10. But I would say I know I've been talking about don't go for guys who aren't GC guys, but Mauro Schmidt was so good in the GP Giffingham today, where I think that he might be able to compete in like 3 or 4 stages. If that breakaway goes on that big mountain day, like Schmidt's looking super strong. And with the removal of Matthews, he will get the supporting of the team. So Schmidt I quite like, although it might well be safer to go with a GC option like Harold Martin Lopez. But this is my point, is that at this price point, these GC riders aren't fantastic. I think that somebody like Schmid could be very good for a lot of for like at least 3 stages, maybe even that first stage, because he is looking in super good form right now. Like I said, Mayus will just be good for that one sprint. Van Zevenon, Mohoric, Zana, not really for me. The 8 credit riders, the ones which I like, obviously the Kristen brothers. Jan, I think, has got a little bit of an edge for me on the UE team, obviously, so he'll get the assist points we expect. I think on home ground he should be allowed to have a little bit of freedom to do, try and get some of his own results and not just work for Almeida. And I think as a GC prospect he's got a little bit more about him than Fabio does, but Fabio was very good in Tour of Slovenia. He was super strong there. And I think that he's also a good choice for a few stages, absolutely. It's a bit like Mauro Schmidt. I think him and Schmidt are quite similar sorts of riders, but I also like Junior Lecerf. I think he's a very good choice. I think Romo's a good choice as well from a GC standpoint. Maybe Stauner-Mittert as well might come top 15 in GC. Scaroni for a couple of punchy stages as well might well be good, but for me I would probably go with one of the Kristen brothers, Lecerf or Romo. The 6 credit riders, there's not too many that I really like. I would say Raul Garcia Piena. He is a good time trialist, maybe not on these uphill ones, but he's got a certain kind of Baruda sort of, never say die attitude. He is quite good in a breakaway. He might well win from a breakaway in this race. And I think that he's quite an underrated rider, so I think he's not a bad one. Gal Glivar was 6th place on stage 3, I think it was, of a Tour of Norway. Good puncher for sure. It'll either be him or Ramses de Bruyne who will be sprinting, I expect. You got Gloag and Glaat, the 2 youngsters for Visma Lease Bike. I mean, Gloag was very good in the early part of the season with the Tour Down Under, where he was top 10, but we haven't seen pretty much anything of him since then. Timon Glaat was 3rd place in the Tour de l'Avenir last year behind Pablo Torres, behind Blackmore and Pablo Torres, so he is a very good climber. And Visma Lease Bike don't have any Jonas or Kuss or Jorgensen here, so I don't know who they'll be backing, but you could get a big differential with Timon Glaat, because I don't think many people will be picking him. Hausen, I think he should be their GC prospect, but I don't see him being much more than a top 15 at best. Kejimini for a top 15 in GC. Vergelagen just for the assist points, honestly. He might decide to go with him. Michels for that one sprint could be good. Oldani's got a bit more versatility, so he might compete in, that 2nd stage and the 3rd stage possibly. But just because he's a bit of a better climber. Pablo Torres I really like. 6 credits. I think he's still... I'll just take a quick look at the start list, just to be sure. Oh, he's not on the start list anymore. Don't pick Pablo Torres because he's not in the race anymore. That's a shame because he would have been a really cool one to go with. Vergelito is good. He was top 15, I think, in Paris-Nice early this year. So I think that he could get you 150 odd points-ish. Vestrenia, he was 14th in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, so maybe he will sprint, but I think it might be Ramses de Bruyne. He was 9th in a stage of the Tour de Romandie, one which Brennan won, so he is quite fast. So as a 4 credit rider, that's not that bad. Chris Froome's now 4 credits. It's a sad day to see, isn't it? Hamilton, actually, for Ineos, he was good during the Giro at points, and I don't know who they'll be going with. I suppose it'll be Geraint Thomas, but he's not traditionally that great in warm-up races. He's good in a Grand Tour, but not much outside of that. So Hamilton might well get the nod. Mason Obra has been in some breakaways recently, and I expect Cofidis will try getting the breakaway quite a bit, so he's quite good. And Finley Pickering actually has been getting in breakaways quite a lot as well. getting those mountain classifications. And given that Bilbao's their leader, I expect they'll have quite a bit of freedom to get in the breakaways. So that's kind of it, I think. This is my team right now. Almeida, Paulus, Schmid, Kristen, Gregoire, Leclerc, Riccatello, Vergolito and Torres. Obviously, I'll change Torres. But it's a strange one, actually, because outside of Almeida, I think you can make a really versatile team. And I've tried to avoid the sixes as much as I can, but I will probably end up going with... I'll pick one just now. I think I do like Vergolito because he is quite safe. I am tempted by Timon Grat, actually, just because I don't know who else they'll go with. Mikel's, it makes sense from a safety standpoint for that one sprint, just to get somebody to get some points. But I might also go with Ramses De Bruyne, and then I could put those extra points into somebody. Like I could get, well, I can't even get like Jay Vine or something. And the 10s aren't that enticing to me, so maybe I'd go with Timon Glatt. Why not? Something like that, I suppose. It's a weird one. Like Almeida, Paulus, Gregoire, Leclerc, Riccatello, and Vergolito. Yeah, lots of GC options, but I don't know who's going to be like on the podium. Like maybe Onley might be a good one to try and get in here instead of Riccatello or something like that. Maybe, but let me know what you're thinking in the comment section down below, because I think it is a very interesting competition outside of Almeida. It's a very open competition, and I think you can make a lot of different teams that could do very well. So let me know what teams you're planning on selecting in the comment sections down below. And all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Salut.